Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 7th, 2025. And just getting a little housekeeping done on the road in the Silver Slipper, baby. Wednesday. Oh my gosh. Can't believe it's already been a week since everybody started showing up and gone now. Everybody's getting back into the routine from the meetup. I'm getting back into my routine. Not that a lot changed, but you know, got things to do, places to go. I saw this morning, I was watching the morning news, I should say the financial channel, I don't know what it was, CNBC or something. I leave that on just kind of see what the markets, the sentiment, the vibe is doing. A lot of people talking about, oh, price is going to go up. I mean, this has got the feel of it's almost like a, I don't want to say a blow off top, but an acceleration here in the markets, all markets. You got the stock market, gold over $4,000 for the first time, considerably above 4,000, about 50, 60 bucks over. Pretty big deal, signaling something. Silver, knocking on 50's door. Yeah, 50 bucks. I mean, adjusted for inflation, that's way low, because it was a 1980 or something when it hit $50 for the first time, and then back in 2011, I think it was, it did it again. So it tapped it twice, and now the third time it's probably going to bust through, and sky's the limit, baby. Who knows? With the industrial use of silver and medicinal uses of silver, it's a big deal. It gets used up. Gold doesn't. All the gold in the world is probably still, well, it does still exist. It's just, you know, it gets recaptured. It doesn't get used up. I guess, you know, you can look back in history, monatomic gold, you know, and what that was used for. The Anunnaki, the aliens, you know, they needed it. I don't know. Who knows? But there may be uses where it may get consumed, or might get consumed. But as far as our modern society, silver gets consumed. So all these little components that go into computer technology, solar panels, all of those things, they get used up. They don't get recovered because, you know, it's not worth it, the price. If it were gold, people would be trying to recover it. But with silver, it hasn't been. And I know Big Swear talks about it a lot. When that thing busts, it's going to be, man, you're not going to be able to get it. You'll probably see it become a strategic asset. It'll get, the governments will say, nope, can't sell any silver. Anything coming out of the mines, they'll be the buyer. Try and set the price, but there'll be a black market then. But anyway, my point is silver's way undervalued in comparison to something like gold. Now, another thing that I've been looking at, I just checked the price of copper. It's up over $5 a pound. I mean, that's a big deal. You're looking at nickels in circulation. Each nickel is 75% copper and 25% nickel. Just your regular nickel that you go to the bank and get, you know, you get your change. I mean, each nickel is worth about 6 cents in metal value right now. It's like 4 cents copper, 2 cents nickel. Both of those are industrial metals that are necessary. Dogs over here scratching her ear, making all kinds of noises. So if you don't have any money, I mean, if you can't afford to go out and buy, you know, 50 bucks for an ounce of silver, or think about it this way. You can go buy 2 ounces of silver for 100 bucks. You can go buy a box of nickels, which weighs, I don't even know how much it weighs, 20 pounds? Not even sure. But you get $100 worth of nickels times 20, so what's that, 2,000 nickels? You get that for 100 bucks. So, you know, one's going to feel like you got a lot more. It's like the comparison of gold. You spend $4,000 on 1 ounce of gold, or you can take $4,000 and, you know, put it in, I'm not doing the math, a lot of silver. Same with nickels. You can buy 2 ounces of silver, or you can get a lot of nickels. Now, why would you do that, you may say? Well, rewind to 1964. If people were doing that with dimes and quarters, dimes had 90% silver in them. So there was a metal value, there was something valuable. So in 1965, they took all the silver out of the metal, or I should say out of the dimes and the quarters. So in 1964, if you'd walked into the bank and bought a box of dimes, you're gonna pay 10 cents a dime. Right now, today, each dime, because of the silver content, it's 90% silver. That same dime is worth $3.50, a 35x. Now, I mean, it took, 60 years or whatever it is to do it. But I'm just saying, long term, if you're looking at, I'm cutting in front, loose gravel. Look out! The slipper's gonna slip. Slipper gonna slip. All right, so the shading might be different here, the lighting. But what you're looking at is you're getting a lot for that paper money or that cotton money, that fiat money that you're turning in, and you get something of real value. Now you can hold that over time, and it's going to hold that value because it's not going to get any cheaper to pull that stuff out of the ground. So $100 buys you a big box of nickels, 2,000 nickels, if I did my math right. Somebody correct me. It's a lot. It's a lot of weight. It's definitely something to look at. A penny right now, just the regular pennies that come out, which they're done. This is the last year. Again, they're taking it out of circulation. The nickel's going to be next. You're not going to have it. And so that in and of itself will call an awareness, an awakening to the fact that, hey, maybe I need to get some of these. Oh, there's metal in it that's valuable. There'll be a run on nickels and pennies right now. A lot of people are buying pennies because they want to get them before there are no more pennies. But each regular struck penny right now has about a 0.008 cents in value because it's 97.5% zinc, and then the rest is copper. So it has a value, even the zinc. So these metals are going to hold value. So you can just go buy pennies. The thing is, if you buy a box of pennies at the bank or a bag of pennies at the bank, and you want to take the time to sort through them, if you pull out everything before 1982 and even during 1982, but you'd have to weigh it, it'd be over 3 grams as opposed to 2.5 grams, and you could sort it out. It had, I think 95% copper in it. The point is, those pennies prior to 1982 that you pull out of circulation are worth over 3 cents right now, today, because of the copper value. 3 cents, you're 3xing every time you pull one out. So it's just a poor man's way of accumulating real metals, because it takes a lot of effort, a lot of diesel fuel, a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of industry to pull that stuff out of the ground and refine it. It's already refined, it's already ready to go. We already know what it is, weights and measures, the US Mint. You don't have to think about it. You can sort through those pennies, and I mean, at some point they're going to be worth a penny a piece, in metal value, and then the ones you pull out prior to 1982 are 3 cents a piece. The easiest thing to do is just go buy bags of them and let them sit there. Better than sitting on cash going forward. It's just a, oh man, dead cat. Ooh, little one. Didn't make it. Nature. But nickels are the easiest thing to do. You don't have to sort through them. You just go in and buy them. Go into the bank, buy a nickel, walk out, it's worth 6 cents. And you don't have to melt it. I mean, nobody's melting down, maybe they are, but nobody's melting down the pre-1965 silver dimes. No, there's a market for it, and people will pay $3 and, man, somebody hit this pole mowing. Yeah, I don't know what that is. But you don't have to melt it down. It's going to have its own value. So if you've got some of those dimes from 1964 and before, you can take them somewhere and somebody's going to pay you for it. They'll pay you the price, or maybe a little bit under, depending upon if it's a dealer or not. But an individual party, it's like, hey, this is the metal value. Boom, give me $3.50. So it's just a way of saving long term, and we got to think a little bit long term, because there are moments like this where things start to, hi Franny, things start to revalue and find their fair market value. And that's what you're seeing with silver. That's what you're finding with gold. People are realizing that dollar's got an issue, and it's not the dollar, it's the US Fed note. But you've got a situation like that where you want to be holding something that has real value, and over time it's going to preserve that value. Again, I've used the analogy ad nauseum, it's like yesterday, I couldn't say it, that in 1964 minimum wage was $1.25. And if you got in those quarters had 90% silver. If you had saved those instead of converting it to bills, in fiat, and save those coins with the 90% silver, those 5 quarters, which was $1.25 in 1964 for an hour's worth of your labor, are now worth about $9 a piece. So that's $45. So that labor held value, and it's now worth $45 an hour. If you had held it in a metal, like silver, let me block the sun. A metal like silver that preserves value over time. That's like $45, $9 for one of those quarters when it was only 25 cents. 35x. Kind of crazy. And the same thing will happen with nickel, with copper. And that's why I think a good play would be buy nickels. It's just kind of a no-brainer. You're already ahead when you walk out of the bank with it. At some point, you're not going to be able to get them. And you're going to say, man, I should have been hoarding nickels. Just a thought, just something to think about. Because they have to, in this debt-based system, create more money to service the existing debt. Now, that could all change, and there are some signs that it may change. You've got the IRS, which came in, after the income tax. The whole thing's a big Ponzi. It's a big scam. It's all artificial money. That's, it's an illusion that we believe in. We think it has value. These bills, I don't have any right now. I got some in my pocket. And it's just, you give faith into something that it's going to work, but we all know it doesn't work. All you have to do is understand what inflation really is. Inflation of the monetary supply, inflation of the bills. As you create more of them, they become worth less. So that dollar that you're holding becomes worth less. It's not the price of the goods going up. It's the cost. It's the amount of dollars that you need to buy the same goods. That T-bone is that T-bone. And for the most part, the processing of it, everything, that's done to create that, it kind of remains constant. It still needs the same amount of grass, same amount of corn, same amount of time to come to development. And it's just that the cost of everything else is going up, the inputs of the corn, but it's not because there are more dollars that need to chase the same assets, and they're going to flow in. The more dollars there are, the more it's going to go up. I heard somebody talking about an oil change. I got friends who, have paid for an oil change, and it's ridiculous. It's $110. And I guess the going rate's $80 now. I don't know. I do it myself. Go buy the oil, buy the filter, and just take the time to do it. It takes me a little bit longer. Got to drive the car up on ramps and drain it, but at least I know what I'm doing. When I'm putting in there, I put quality oil in it. I'll put a good filter on it. And $80 though? Come on. And it's not the cost of those materials necessarily, the oil and the filter, even though those have gone up a little bit. It's the cost of the labor. Because people aren't keeping up. It's just not, there's too many dollars in circulation. And, since COVID, everybody just keeps jacking the price as high as they can get it. That was the big reset, the whole COVID experiment, to where I remember in 2020, you had, piles of potatoes, and steaks that were going unsold in restaurants because they're all closed. There was a surplus of things, and, patterns change. Everybody's making bread at home, and doing all this self-sufficient stuff and homestead, type thing. And then, it starts reopening again. It's reset. All the small businesses are gone. You got your corporations and the restaurants, and, the big players are still, they exist. They could weather it, but then they pass that cost on to you. Because they created $10 trillion. You just create $10 trillion out of nothing and dump it into the economy. It's going to go somewhere. And it's gone into the cost of things. And it's not that the cost of those things has gone up. They're no more valuable than they were then. It's the same item. It's just that you push so much money into the system that it's going to go somewhere. Money will find a home. And that's what's happened. So I guess the thing going forward is to really understand that, they're going to create more money, and you've got to position yourself such that you can hedge against that. You get something that has value going forward and is going to hold that value. I would say whiskey and cigars. Yeah. There's a market for that. There's a market for silver. There'll be a market for copper. There'll be a market for those things, to preserve your wealth. But first and foremost, you need to look at your health. How can I be healthy? Because look at the cost of not being healthy. you know, you're going to go take medicine, and then you go to doctor visits, and, you know, all the things that go with it. You know, you don't feel good. You can't go to work. You know, you can't do this. I can't do that. That's the first thing. I mean, take care of your health. Put yourself in a position where you're eating good food, finding sources of that, and really protect your health. Protect yourself. Get your mind right. Get in that mindset of where you want to be and what do I need, and what fulfills me, what gives me pleasure, what gives me joy, what gives me a satisfaction on a daily basis, and surround yourself with that stuff. Find a way to produce it yourself. You know, I love eggs. Okay, well, maybe you want to look into getting some chickens. You know, producing your own eggs so you're not dependent, and then you know where they come from, as opposed to going to the store. You have no idea. You have no idea where they come from. A lot of them, they got these planes that fly in from China, and that's all they have on them, is a bunch of eggs. I mean, how are they produced? You know, what are those chickens being fed? So it's all that stuff. And you don't need a lot of food. I mean, you really don't. I'm living proof of that. You don't need to eat a lot to sustain yourself. You just have to eat good food. Quality food, good nutrients, nutrient-dense foods. And you don't need to eat a lot. You really don't. Because what happens is we overeat because we eat things that have no vitamins, no minerals in it, and, you know, we're full, our guts blow up, but we're still hungry because our body's starving because we're not getting good food. We're not getting the minerals. We're not getting the vitamins. You know, we're not getting the things that we need out of the food. So it's important to source that stuff and source it locally and know where it comes from if you have that ability, or grow it yourself, produce it yourself. That's the most important thing. So, you know, you look at all these things that you need going forward, and yeah, money, you know, preserving your energy in some form, whether it be gold, silver, crypto even, you know, nickel, copper, whatever it is. But first and foremost, you need to have things to survive, and survive comfortably. You know, just surviving is one thing, but surviving comfortably is another thing. And, you know, think of the things that you need on a daily basis, and is there a way to have that available for you? You know, buy a freezer. You know, if you like to eat a lot of meat, stock up on that meat. If you can get it from a source that's really good, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to get more of that while I can. That's preserving wealth. So it's just going forward, we need to really give that a lot of thought. And those are just a few ways in my mind that I've thought about that can help maybe protect you against the dying dollar, that dying Fed note. Because that's what's happening right now. Something's being reset. Something's happening. Gold is signaling that. Silver's about to signal it really hard. The cryptos will do the same thing. Those dollars are going to flee. We're looking at Japan. I think their interest rates on their bonds are going up, which is a bad thing because that's going to unwind a lot of the carry trade stuff. There are just a lot of things happening, and something's breaking. So, you know, we're at the edge again, and October is always a fun month to pull the pin. You've got the government shutdown. I mean, there's kind of a perfect storm building to where, okay, things could get reset, kind of like COVID. You know, it's an opportunity to reset things. And they have to do these hard resets more and more. It has to be more frequent because you're at the end of the system. You know, it used to be, well, every 20 years we can have we can reset things and, you know, hyperinflate a little bit, you know, subtly inflate. But the longer the debt Ponzi scheme goes, the more they have to do it, the more often they need to do it as it dies. It's like death throes, you know, that animal that's wounded, it's going to kick harder and kick more frequently as much as it can to fight. And that's kind of what you're looking at. You're watching that system kick and fight and do everything it can, and it jerks and it convulses and it becomes more unpredictable. And so get into a situation where it is more stable and predictable. Get away from that dying animal. You don't want to get kicked. You know, nothing more dangerous than a wounded zebra. You don't want that. You don't want to be around that. You don't know what it's going to do. You know, and that's kind of where we're at with the fiat system. You don't know what's going to happen. It's going to react violently when you least expect it, and you're going to see more of the death throes. So prepare yourselves. Surround yourself with good people. Build a good network out. The support system is very important. I know that firsthand. It's very important to be surrounded with good people. It will help you through the hard times. And know yourself. Know who you are. Know what you're all about. Don't sit back and think that, oh, when this happens, I'm gonna, things are gonna be good. Okay, well, how are they going to be good? What is your plan? What is your action plan? How are you taking action when things happen to benefit you, to check the boxes that make your life better, that put you on a path of freedom and independence? Become self-aware. Know why you're here. You trust your intuition. You're here for a reason. This is an important journey that we're on. Let's not waste that. Let's not just go with the flow, whatever comes at me from the government, from that and this. It's one thing to do that, but you got to be aware that, okay, don't let yourself become a victim or get steamrolled by it. Prepare yourself for that. Know who you are and why you're here and what your purpose is, and fulfill that purpose. It's very important. I mean, this is a shot, at a very amazing time in history, an amazing time in this cosmic journey that has been going on for who knows how long. So definitely take note of that. Look inward and pay attention, and understand you. All right. Beautiful day. Back to work. Got some calls to make. Everybody needs Westwood. And it's all right. Is it better to be needed than not needed? You're going to have to answer that question. We all have to answer that question individually. All right. I love you all. I really do. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you come to understand, why you're here. It's going to be necessary going forward. Don't be a lost soul. Don't be a wandering boat. There are lighthouses out there. Find them and find like-minded people. Know who you are. Understand who you are. And fulfill that journey while you're here. All right. Love you all. Have a wonderful day.